Hey guys, what's up? It's Florida Man 40k. You've got me, Brohammer Dan, also Florida Man 40k Dan, whatever else you want to call me, I don't care. With me today, I've got Tim, the analytical genius Penny.
Literally, no one has ever called me that before, but I'll take it.
We also have William. I played your Kari for the fluff. Taylor.
It's true. All of that is true.
And John. Memes are life. Lennon.
You know what? I'm willing to accept that, and I will not fight back.
I still like the Boy King, John the Boy King.
John the Boy
King. That's my favorite.
That's fair. That is an equality name. All right, boys. We are coming off of 2 GT weekends back to back. Tim didn't get to play because, he's got a real life. But the other three of us did. We're going to give you a rundown. It's going to be fun. It's 4th of July weekend. We're literally recording on 4th of July. You're going to hear some fireworks. Who cares? Let's do this. All right. Let's just dive in. All right. First up, Onslaught GT, Tampa, Florida. Strange Realms, awesome event, great dudes, I loved it, I had a ton of fun. I went 3-2 playing 8th edition Sisters. I don't have a whole lot to say other than, holy crap, Sisters are a lot harder to play than I realized. New AdMech is garbage and I hate them, and I went 3-2, I lost to Grey Knights because that's a thing that happens sometimes. That's it, that's all you need to hear from me. Let's hear from the real people who actually did things. Will, John, let's hear it.
Kick it off. I actually played an army that still exists after the event is over. I busted out Ye Olde Death Watch, which worked out pretty well. I've been kind of memeing with Ultramarines for a while, but the side story of that is that while I was painting my Dreadnought army, I also was painting a different army that was Dreadnoughts and had the same models, because I painted up a Death Watch army for our stream here there in War, and for my good buddy Jack Harpster who played ACO. So I painted a 2K Death Watch army that I had not played any games with. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to actually take this army that I put way too many hours into and play at least one event with it. So I played it at a Sunday RTT at Atlantic City Open because I didn't top 8 there and I was taking out my frustration on other people. But then after that, I was like, let's actually go to a real GT. So I went to a real GT, the Onslaught GT in Tampa, brought the Death Watch. It was a bunch of dreads, bunch of fun stuff. And I had a really good time with it. I actually managed to play against the one and only Will Taylor there, which is, extra fun.
Who's that loser?
It's you.
Oh my god, it's me. That's right, dude. I finally got to play a game of 40k after a 2.5 month long hiatus painting my totally not bandwagon Dark Eldar army that I acquired. It felt good, man. I actually got one half practice game against Smith before going to the GT that weekend, and I had a really good time. I had a lot of great opponents. I got really drunk the first day at the end of the day, and that was probably my favorite game the whole weekend. I got no sleep that Saturday, and I ended up playing against the one and the only, the Boy King meme maker himself, John Lennon. At the very end. It was at the very end. John, would you like to do the honors and talk about some of your games that weekend, and then I'll talk about some about mine, and then we can talk about our game.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the spoiler alert should be that we were both 4-0 going into that last game. I had a grand old time. Started off playing against some Tau. I played a lot of Xenos this weekend, and it turns out that being Deathwatch and playing against Xenos works out usually in your favor, which is absolutely wonderful. So I started off against some Tau, and I just kind of had a relic of +1 to hit against everything fly, which is literally the Tau Codex, which worked out well. So I kind of shot him off the table and high scored, got a nice clean 100. Then I actually played against some Knights and went second on Vital Intelligence, which was awkward because when Knights go first and run at you, you kind of get pinned in your deployment zone. And then, of course, in Vital Intelligence, there's one objective in your deployment zone, and it is a hold 2 mission, which kind of turned it into a low-scoring game, but I still took a win there. Then rounds 3 and 4, I kind of beat my way through a pair of unlucky Necron players, and turning off reanimations, or not turning off, but -1 to reanimations, really hurt. And it's kind of similar to the Ultramarines. The Death Watch list is designed to have offensive levels of firepower, and that that really worked out well, considering just -1 to reanimate, bucket load of dice, efficient rerolls out the butt. Special buffs against Xenos, I murdered them both, unfortunately for them, pretty efficiently. But then that kind of led into a 4-0 entry to round 5, where I was paired up against my good buddy Will.
I'll tell you what, you're not wrong. That firepower was offensive. Now, for me, going in day 1, I played against my first game was against a Space Wolf player named Dustin. Dustin has actually listened to the show, so hey Dustin, it was a very fun game. I was definitely respecting his army because, once again, I didn't know what I was doing, to be quite honest with you. And a quick rundown of my list, because I'm sure nobody has looked it up. I was playing a Black Art detachment with the 2 Archons, 2 Courts of the Archons with the 4 Slith and 4 Urgles, each 2 units of 5 Incubi, a unit of Blasterborn, 5 Raiders, a Cultist Strife detachment where my Warlord was. I was still using the old sexy, not the new sexy, because I was painting the stuff right in the middle of the FAQ. And so my Succubus had the Dark Lotus Toxin, Precision Blows, and the Razor Flails. I had 10 Witches with Morvane's Agonizer on the Sergeant, and a Shardnet Impaler. And then in the Covenant's detachment, I had Drazar, 3 units of Rax with Ossifactors and the Hex Rifles, not Liquefiers, because you can't use those efficiently anymore, and then a unit of 3 Chronos. My game against Dustin, I got to go first. I was able to remove some Redemptors and took a very strong board presence. He didn't kill enough Raiders, and then I just kind of rolled over him. My game 2, I got to play against my buddy Dio Monsalve. He was running White Scars that he was conned into submitting literally the first or second night of ACO by Nick Notavati himself.
Did you just call Atlantic City Open ACO?
ACO, yeah, ACO.
ACO. Holy goodness.
Stop trying to make ACO happen. It's not going to happen.
Dude, okay, well now I'm going to do it even harder. Anyways, he got the first turn. He moved up. He didn't really do too much. I still had 5 Raiders by the end of it. And then I started just moving forward. And the big breaker was he threw 5 Vanguard and 5 Blade Guard veterans into a unit of the Court of the Archon, and they held out. They didn't die that turn, and then I just started cleaning up, and that was that. Court of the Archon is amazing. My game 3, I played against Ariel. He was also playing Dark Eldar, and I thought that was going to be my end. I usually can't close out a 3-0 on day 1. It's just not the usual thing. And I looked over at Lennon and I said, man, I don't think I can do this. And Lennon looked at me and said, just go in, just do it. And so I did just that. I got lucky. I don't know how. Maybe the Boy King's magic kind of like just whispered into my ear, and Ariel got first. He shot at my Chronos. Not a single lance hit. Not a single lance. He had 6 lances in the list. None of them hit. And then I was like, oh, okay. So I get to go first now. And then, I destroyed his Raiders, destroyed the stuff on the inside, ran over him. Looking clean into my day 2, with a 3-0 win. I ended up playing against my friend Brian, who was running Siege Demons. And I had, devised a plan the night before to beat it. And I executed it perfectly. I moved Raiders up to take smites, and then I blew up his 2 pink blobs, and he conceded at the bottom of 2. And so I got a lot of high-scoring games. I had my foot on the gas the whole weekend because, I wanted to play the best, and I ended up doing that. And I got to see Lennon across the table. So, Lennon, how was our game?
I had a grand old time. So, to provide some more context on the Death Watch list, pretty much every Marine list I wrote in over the course of, about 6 weeks was designed with a pure and express purpose of how efficiently can I kill Dark Eldar today. and that was just something I wanted to live by. You know what? Like, I lost against Dark Eldar a lot with Space Marines, like right when that book came out, and I was ready to die mad about it. So Ultramemes was an exercise in, if I go first, I'm going to rickroll Dark Eldar out of existence. And it worked really well because, I've never lost a Dark Eldar going first, but, go second against them 7 times and you're going to lose one of them, turns out. And that was the story of my ACL. But the Death Watch was a little bit better at going second and a little bit worse at going first against the Drukhari. And I kind of built up that confidence to where I no longer felt that the first turn advantage was necessary. Whereas, at first Dark Eldar was like this, immovable object of like, you have to do everything you can to even try to compete with them. But, as we learned, we practiced, we got better, we started bringing better lists. I don't want to say that we solved Dark Eldar, but it became playable. So then I was like, all right, let's go to the more comfortable Death Watch where I don't really care if I go first or second. I can take it on the chin because I'm going to have my invuln up. It's not just like if you get the first shooting phase and I don't have an invuln up, then I lose like a bunch of dreads. So, and Death Watch has some really efficient stuff to deal with Dark Eldar in general because, +1 to hit against fly, reroll against what data sheet. You can really kill a Dark Eldar army quickly if you need to. So I just felt kind of good about the matchup in general. I've played a lot of Dark Eldar recently. Again, at the Atlantic City Open between the 6 games in the normal tournament and the Sunday RTT, I played against Dark Eldar 6 times, and all of that was using Rex and Liquefiers and old school stuff, and it was using 85-point Raiders and 135-point Drazar. And I believe this tournament was using more expensive Raiders, more expensive Drazar, and the Liquefiers. So like it was objectively a weaker Dark Eldar. And then I had gotten a ton of reps, and then the Space Marine list hadn't changed at all. So I felt very good going into this one. I think the mission ended up being Dawn of War, which just tends to promote the game into more of a shootout if you let it, because it's very hard to get out of range. Like if you can be seen, you're in range because it's Dawn of War. And for the Death Watch army, that is definitely the kind of fight I want it to be. So going in, I felt quite good about the game. I was excited to get to play against Will because we've gotten to play a couple times, but there's definitely a stretch where we didn't play for a while. And, always fun to get some podcast action in here.
Yeah, I like how you were feeling really confident for that matchup because I felt like dog shit. I think I remember asking you, was like, how many Raiders did you kill of the weekend of ACO? I'm going to keep using it at ACO. And he was like, casually 30. No problem.
I did count because I was salty about how much Dark Eldar I played. I killed a clean 6 Drazars and 30 Raiders. Out of 31, I left 1 Raider alive across the weekend.
John, if you do this for no one else, do this for me. I want you to paint like little tiny little Raiders on the side of like one of your dreadnoughts, like World War II, like fighter pilot style.
I could.
Please do that.
Actually, yeah, I think I could toss that on like the arm of a Redemptor or something. That could work. They've got some nice flat panels on them.
Yeah, so going into this game, knowing that Lennon had already gotten at least 6 practice GT games against Dark Eldar the weekend or the 2 weekends before, and me getting barely 5 games in up to this point, my only idea in mind was to hold out as much as I can, score as many points as I can, so that I don't get knocked off the podium, because I really wanted to at least get top 3. And there's that old adage that whenever you make it all the way to the end, you lose and you go to like 5th or 6th place. So I picked a bunch of secondaries where I didn't have to interact with Lennon. I tried not to show my face at all, score as many small points as I possibly can, and just not get tabled. And I think I did fairly well for it because Lennon obviously won. And you got a cool 100 on that one, didn't you? Or was it 90?
It was 90 something. I think I took I don't remember exactly what I got, but it was definitely a high score. Like I think I got like 95 or something.
Yeah, and I got like 40 or 50 points, and it was just enough. To get me 3rd place at this event. I savagely beat Brian the game before, just so that he could not surpass me in the last game. And the top 3 was Lennon, obviously, Colin Watts, right? No, not Colin Watts. What was Colin's last name?
No, it was Colin Watts, I think.
Oh, it was Watts. Colin Watts with his Deadless Custodes, and me with my non-bandwagon Dark Eldar army. So, and it was a good weekend. I had a really good time. for me personally, I know that Lennon goes out and smashes GTs left and right, but for me personally, I accomplished a lot of my personal goals. I podiumed, which I don't think I've ever done. We recorded some stuff for the 40k Stat Center, which if you've listened to previous episodes, when we talked to Peter, I told him straight up, when they started doing that, I've always wanted to be or make it onto their show. I don't know if that stuff contest has made it up, but just being able to record to be on Stat Center was cool. And my army looked great. I spent a lot of time painting it, making it look really nice, putting a lot of effort into it. And yeah, that weekend, Onslaught weekend, was fantastic for me personally.
Yeah, I had a great time, and honestly, the Deathwatch army was my best painted army by far.
Oh yeah,
it was fun. It was fun getting a really nice looking top table that actually was streamed by the store, the Stranger Realms. Yeah, that game. Going into a little more into what actually happened. I know you took some kind of secondaries that were designed to get some points. You did kind of try to come out on me, and then I think I killed like everything in line of sight, and I think. And it's hard because, like, first of all, this is, I don't, Will, you were kind of making it sound like, you walked in defeated. He did try to make it through the firepower, and that mindset lasted for exactly one shooting phase.
Yeah. I was a broken child right after that. Like, you slapped me so hard, I was like, oh yeah, no, I can't do this. I need to go back to hiding.
Yeah, I think I killed like 3 raiders in every model that got out of it in one turn, and then I had dreadnoughts that did not fire because there was just nothing left. And I was okay. Yeah, like there were dreadnoughts like ready to go, and there was just nothing in line of sight. I was like, all right, we'll just wait till next turn.
It was rough.
If I'm being honest, that a new Atomic was used at this event, but there was only one player there, and so neither of us actually played against new Atomic, although certainly that'll affect my list choices in the future. But I gotta say, this is not a knock on Will at all, but that Deathwatch list is like the most perfectly balanced Drukhari killing machine that I think can be made.
Yeah.
From the Space Marine Codex perspective, I think purely from the objective of how hard can I kill Drukhari, I don't think that Deathwatch list gets topped. The Ultramarine list is a little more mobile, a little more punchy. Might be a little better into the non-Xenos armies, but just how hard do I stomp Drukhari? Ooh, it felt like I was holding Mjolnir because it was just so perfectly balanced. It was just yep, this is oh, there's a Dark Eldar unit. No, just everything I wanted, just threw Mjolnir at it. That's what it feels like to shoot Contemptors at Dark Eldar.
It was really good, the double stacking of pluses to hit, just so that you can negate the lightning fast, or you can negate them hiding behind dense cover and whatnot, and just efficiently remove Raider, and then officially remove infantry. It was brutal. I didn't want to play it. I'm going to be honest with you, man, I did not want to play it. I wanted to play literally anybody else, just so that I could try to go 5-0. But hey, you play GT in Florida, you're going to play Lennon on top table. You got to be ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it was a good time. And it was a really well run event as well. So I certainly enjoyed that. And it was fun to give the Deathwatch a little spin. I don't think I'm going to really play the army much, quite frankly. It was very fun, and again, I really enjoyed getting an opportunity because it was one of my better, it was my best painted army. So I'm glad I got it on the table, but I don't think I'm going to play it anytime soon, so I'm just glad I got to spin with it.
Yeah, we shall see, though. But the very next weekend, with our powers combined and dragging Dan Smith up to Albany, Georgia, we went to the Cool Place team. What was the actual title of it? It was a word salad.
It was the Triple Threat GT at the Cool Place. And that was also a very well-run event. I had a ton of fun. We got, spoiler alert, 6th place overall. We'll talk about why that happened and why we didn't place better. But I just want to say real fast, It was a ton of fun. Definitely worth the trip. Store was awesome. People there were awesome. I saw so many people I hadn't seen in almost 2 years. Absolutely great. How do we want to dive into this? Do we want to go round by round, all three of us talking, or do we want to just go highlights player by player? Lennon, what do you think?
Well, let's just start off by explaining what happened here. So this was a 3-man team event, and we had a good old Florida man time. So again, as myself, I played my Ultramarines. Dan, this was your first foray into the new Sisters of Battle Codex.
Yeah, I do want to say one thing about that real fast. So, Onslaught, literally the weekend before, it was 8th edition codex, and then Triple Threat was the 9th edition codex. So, I had to paint my entire 8th edition list, play it exactly one event, and then shift gears and paint to get ready for a 9th edition codex. So, I was going into this with literally 0 practice games with the new codex. So, my list was very simple, very straightforward. I didn't understand all the minutia of it, and that comes up later. We honestly could have, 1, taken the whole thing, or 2, placed even better than 6th. But honestly, like, for my second GT in 18 months, first GT with this book, we did pretty well. I'm a little disappointed in myself. We'll get into that more. But overall, it was a great weekend, a ton of fun. I absolutely loved this event. So, Will, let's start with you diving in just first round, what you were thinking, what you were feeling, and how you felt.
Sure. So my first round was unironically very similar to the Zinch Demons list that I had just beaten the weekend before, but just slightly worse. And I mean, I basically did the exact same thing. I moved Raiders up to intercept Smite stuff. I killed Magnus very quickly, and then I removed Pinks off of objectives, and then I ran him over. My game actually finished last just because of how much stuff both of us had to do in every single phase. But I scored a cool 100 on that one because I wanted the foot on the gas. Dan, you're up.
All right, my first game was against Death Guard. I always forget just how good Death Guard is at not losing. Like, they don't win very well, but they also just don't lose. So, I very easily could have lost this game just from mistakes. The end of the game, Morven Vol versus Typhus in a hand-to-hand combat. We both go down to 2 wounds, and, like, Morven could just kill Typhus, but instead I'm like, you know what? Let me fall back and use my multi-meltas to kill literally every character you have. And so that's what I did. I ended up winning the game only by like 5 points, but honestly, it was a great break-in of the new codex. I felt really good. I got a real test of how durable Morven is, because like, you take a Typhus charge to the face, you're gonna find out. And so that's what I did. And it was a great game, great opponent. I had a ton of fun. Let's roll back to John, who was supposed to start this whole thing, and we'll finish with it instead. Let's hear it, John.
Just as planned. I was supposed to know the old Ultramarines. So I ended up playing against some Raven Guard in the first round. Went second, which, continuing the ACO, not the ACO, streak, which was fine. Still pulled out a clean 100 there. Just going from Ultramarines for a while to Deathwatch for 1 weekend and then right back Ultramarines. I mean, it was just like, getting back on the bicycle. Like, I was very comfortable with the Ultramarines, so it felt really good. We definitely were, we were trying to step on the gas as much as possible, get to the top, play against some of the top teams there, really trying to score as high as we could. So, unfortunately, we took that out on our poor round 1. So I think we scored like 280 something points in the first round. 285, yeah. The first for the format, it wasn't points to win the round. It was literally just first team to win 2 games was going to be the one that won the round. So points were really just for placings and tiebreakers. But we just decided, as Will said, step on the gas, see how high we could score. And of course, that did immediately take us into a top table with Pro Tabletop. Pro Tabletop was Brad Weir, Jaime Paris, and Damien Owen. And we were the 2 highest scoring teams going into round 2. So immediately met them on the top table and had a really, really close, interesting match there. Pairings for 3-man teams, by the way, it feels very rock, paper, scissors with like what gets thrown down first. Because normally, if you have 5 players, you put down 1, your opponent puts down 1, then you pick 2 of your remaining 4 to pair against it. And then, the initial list put down gets to choose between those 2. And with a 3-man team, it's the exact same thing, except you're picking 2 out of 2 lists instead of 2 out of 4, meaning that there is no choice at all. So whatever list gets thrown down gets to choose between the remaining 2, and that's it. So the pairings for round 2, which I actually think that we we did correctly, because I looked back at all of our more difficult rounds to think about the pairings. I think we put all the right people in the right places, but it ended up being Will, Drukari, and Jaime's Space Wolves. Dan, your sisters went into Brad's Dark Eldar, and then my Ultramarines went into Damien's Admech. So got my my first tournament taste of that brand new Admech style.
Yeah, I'll dive in here. So this pairing we knew was going to be tough. Like before the weekend started, we kind of had a feeling like whoever wins this probably takes the event. Like Matt Root's there, and he's got a really good team, and that was something to be respected. But the pro tabletop matchup, we just looking at lists and everything, we had a feeling. So, like Lennon said, we got pretty good matchups. We got what we wanted. Unfortunately, it hinged on either Will beating Jaime, who has been just crushing with his Space Wolves, super practiced, into less practiced Dark Eldar, or me, literally my second game ever with the 9th edition sisters, into a practice player with Dark Eldar. And let me just say, I think Brad might have been my favorite opponent from the weekend. Like, I had a great round 5 too. Like, I had honestly, all 5 of my games were awesome. I had a ton of fun. But like, Brad was just a very tactical player, very, very precise. We both kind of knew how the game was going every single turn. We were on the same page, communicated great. Essentially, long story short, my whole game came down to remembering to disembark 5 battle sisters with OBSEC onto an objective. If I do that, I win. If I don't, I lose. And guess what I forgot to do? So I lost that game. That sucked. John, let's talk about yours a little bit, and then we'll go to Will.
Yeah, absolutely. I played into Yield Admech and broke the streak. The Ultramarines went first. I don't think that I absolutely had to go first in order to win this game. Damien is running a very prototypical Admech list. It was 60 Lucius troops, 6 Mars Chicken Walkers, a good supporting cast of infiltrators, Cerberus Raiders, a couple bombers. A lot of the usual suspects. To be honest. I did end up going first, though, and that really helped a lot regarding the scoreboard. Adamec has a ton of outputs, so going second, I was going to need to really, be very well hidden. So I deployed as absolutely hidden as possible, and because the way I saw it was, if I go first, I'm going to redeploy as much as necessary to get where I need to go, damn the CPs, full speed ahead. And that's what ended up happening. I spent 4 command points to use my redeploy stratagem twice, and I redeployed 6 units total to I went from all the way back to all the way on the line. And then if I had gone second, I wouldn't have needed to redeploy as much, so I would have had more CPs to play with to try to, scrape a close win out of it. But I ended up going first. I redeployed a bunch of stuff. I had Invictors already 4 deployed. And my opening turn went well. Frankly, it didn't go as well as I wanted. I killed 3 out of 6 last chickens. I had one of them taken down to 1 wound. And then that 1 wound chicken tanked an entire Invictor shooting and didn't die. And that was annoying. But I killed a really good chunk of Raiders, killed 34 Rangers of Vanguard, so the little infantry guys, and then I knocked out a block of the infiltrators as well. So very good turn 1. He struck back and killed 3 of my 5 walkers, which was excruciatingly painful. But I finished it up by removing the rest of the last chicken, so I killed every single one by the end of my turn 2. And then finished off the Raiders, finished off 2 of the Skitarii bricks. There's only 1 brick left, and then I thinned that one down by about 5 models. And at that point, he was just completely out of steam. And he took out another Dread, but that was the highest pace he could really sustain, was 1 a turn at that point. And I ended up tabling him. I think it took until my turn 5 to table him. But the big thing was that because I redeployed my entire army onto the line, I ran straight at him. And I was able to keep his primary very low. He got a 5 on primary, and then I gave him a 0 on 1 secondary and low scores on the others. So he ended up with a 98 to 27 after paint score in my favor. So that obviously went really, really well for the team. For me, at least that round, I should say. But Will played against Jaime with his good old Space Wolves.
Yeah, man. The skill gap definitely showed. He beat me. Spoiler alert. It really came down to the first turn. I didn't ask the range on grav cannons, and he dropped them down, close to a raider, and he destroyed the raider that had my Trueborn in it, and I could have emergency disembarked them into ruins so that they couldn't get shot. And I was like, no, they're fine. It's only 24 inches. I can just move back. And then I got him out, and he said, well, it's 30. Do you want to put him somewhere else? And I was like, no, I don't think grab cannons can kill these guys. And I was proven wrong almost immediately. And because of that, those guys are supposed to hold down my right flank and kind of, try to at least get rid of his Redemptor Dread. And the Chronos, the 9 Chronos that I took, was supposed to hold, my left flank and just kill whatever was over there. And because I lost that asset very early on, I couldn't get to his Dread and get rid of it. And because of that Dread ran roughshod through the rest of my army. That thing killed so many Chronos at the end of the game. It was ludicrous. Like, he threw everything into those Chronos. He threw his jump pack Wolf Guard with the Lightning Claws and the Storm Shields. He threw a Redemptor Dread into them, and they were fine. They cleared all of that, no problem. But that damn Contemptor Dread just walked around the corner and knocked them all out. And I just ran out of steam very quickly. And we learned a little bit that Chronos may be very good. They definitely hit hard and can remove stuff, but they're not very good against things with Storm Shields and cover. It's not ideal. So I lost that one. I want to say it was like 56 to, I think he got a 90. And that does come into play later on in the weekend. But unfortunately, my loss and Dan's loss meant we lost to the Pro Tabletop team. And they had a pretty easy time, I think, after that. So with our last game loss, we move into game 3 against some Northerners. And Dan, would you like to talk about your game first?
Sure. So going into this matchup, I was kind of looking at it, and I was like, they had a Tyranids player, and I was a little bit leery of the Tyranids because I know what they can do. Like, there was a chance he just YOLOs into my entire lines. I don't actually kill him, and he just tables me. But as pairings play out, it turns out I'm playing against Tyranids. I was like, well, I love the army. It's going to be a fun game either way. Let's just see what happens. He goes first. He literally moves a Dimacarian from the back corner of his deployment zone to the back corner of my deployment zone, obviously killing stuff in the way. But long story short, it turns out Multi-Meltas getting +1 to hit and +1 to wound into the Swarmlord is kind of really good at killing the Swarmlord. Repentia with +1 to wound and Morven Vol buff happens to be really good at killing monstrous creatures. So long story short, I killed in the first 2 turns, I think 6 of his 7 monsters. And then I actually did happen to table him turn 4. I don't remember my exact score. It was probably a 97 because I really like Retrieve Octarius Data, which cannot get you a 15. But honestly, that was a really fun game, really good opponent. Tyranids I just love seeing on the table. Unfortunately for my opponent, I had all of my pieces in place to deal with all of his assets, like Zephyrim taking out hordes. I mean, you know how it goes. I happen to have every asset in the right place to counter every one of his assets. Long story short, 97 to 40 something. Great game. I did what I wanted.
Yeah, that one went pretty good. I mean, in the pairings process, we were talking about it because I think Sisters can actually struggle with certain Tyranid lists, but while we were, before we finished the pairings, Dan and I talked about the matchup a little more, and I think because this Tyranid list didn't have nearly as many infantry as normal, we thought he would be able to handle it pretty well. So I definitely talked to Dan before I put him into the Tyranids because I knew where it was going. I wasn't just I try not to throw Dan to the wolves, even though he deserves it. But it worked out pretty well there for Dan. And then my round, I ended up against round 3. I ended up against Salamanders. Had a curious number of Marine Mirror matches across this tournament, and in this one, it was actually quite difficult. Just the way the terrain was set up, because there were 2 L's pointing into each other that didn't have windows, and my opponent was able to get a unit of this was sweep and clear, so it was corner deployments. And then the way that the L's were facing was literally perfectly into the corners. So it was going to take me a while for the dreads to actually get to see them. And my opponent ended up putting like a big blob of salamander aggressors inside an L with no windows in it on the priority target objective. And that proved to be annoying. So I kind of took 1 or 2 turns of skirting the edges and trying to murder his Meltas. So I was able to kill. I killed 3 attack bikes turn 1. I killed 3 attack bikes turn 2, and then I kind of baited him into once he kind of had that position of like he had aggressors in the center. I didn't really want to send my infantry in there to get him out, and I needed him to come out. So I started pushing dreadnoughts forward so that he would be incentivized to come at me. And what ended up happening was he dropped his drop pod full of melts on turn 3 and tried to bring out his aggressor squad from the center in tactical doctrine to do whatever he could, and it really didn't work for him. I think that he thought that just aggressors with damage buffs was going to kill any dreadnought they hit, and that is just not what actually happens. He got a little bit greedy. I think he should have killed the dreadnought with the aggressors, but he split his fire. He tried to flame flame an Invictor to death, and then charge a dreadnought and kill it. And unfortunately, that is not at all what happened. It was also my Seal of Oath unit, so of course when he came out of the room to charge me, I used my buddy Overwatch with Ultramarines. And I told him about it pregame, but I think he underestimated the combo of Seal of Oath and the buddy Overwatch and what that meant. Because I killed 2 aggressors on Overwatch, and then the survivors went into a dreadnought. -1 damage meant that he did not kill the dreadnought, and of course a degraded dreadnought still averages just the entire aggressor squad removed from existence, which is exactly what happened. And so unfortunately his turn 3 push ended with me only losing 1 Invictor, and his aggressors and his biker chaplain, who also committed to combat the same phase, all dying in that phase. So my dreadnoughts were free to walk, move, and his biggest threat to them was died in his own turn. So from that point I took over pretty quickly. Because I lost the center early on, I got 96. But I was able to max my primary because my turn 3 was incredibly devastating, where, again, I kind of took a couple turns of, forcing angles, getting little chip shots here and there, and then turn 3, I got line of sight with the whole army and removed just every salamander line of sight. And that worked out quite well.
I would say so.
Will, I actually don't remember what you played against round 3.
I played against Necrons, my hated foe. I hate Necrons with a fire passion, but the guy that I played against was really nice. He'd only been playing for 2 years, and we had a good game. I unfortunately got first, and the mission is by far my favorite one. 5 objectives, stable quarters. I can move around. I can get wherever I need to go. I can hold all the objectives. And that's what I did. I moved on to all the objectives. He didn't kill anything except for maybe a raider, which actually exploded and hurt his void dragon. Right? That's what's called, the void dragon or whatever. The Catan.
Yeah, the Catan.
Yeah. So it hurt it and did 2 mortal wounds, and then it got into combat with 2 witches, and they did like a couple of wounds to him. I think like 1 or 2, and I put him just within kill range to just nuke him on my turn, shoot him, do 3 wounds, charge him, do 3 wounds, and he died immediately. And then, I just spent the rest of the game cleaning up, and I got a clean 100. I did talk to him afterwards, though. I told him, hey, you got a little bit of bloat here by taking. He had the Locust heavy destroyers. I still don't think that they're good. I'm not too sure when they are going to be good, but they're just not. And I was telling them you can make changes here and there. You could do a few things with your custom. Your custom dynasty, and use these kind of stratagems in order to maybe do a little bit better. So it was more like it was a teaching game, but also I had my foot on the gas because I wanted us to score as much as we possibly could so that we could place. And then we ended that day with the most battle points, I think, and we went to our hotel and got some Mellow Mushroom. Mellow Mushroom, please sponsor us. That'd be great. I would love to have free food. Thank you.
That's the dream, right?
That is the dream. And we got some rest and moved on to day 2, where we played against some of the East Tennessee Adepticus players. Dan, how was your game?
All right, so this game was against an opponent I had played previously. He was rocking Deathwatch, the Dreadball, with he had some Vanguard veterans that did not have jump packs, and long story short, how do I want to say this? I moved aggressively to try to draw him to one side of the table so I could take over the other side of the table with my melee threats. I made a mistake not realizing the just sheer threat of deep striking turn 1 all of those veterans, and then just the fact that he needs a 9-inch charge, but when he kills stuff, if I want to emergency disembark into the ruins to keep from getting shot by the Redemptors, suddenly that 9-inch goes to a 4-inch. So I basically had to sacrifice a unit of Dominions and a unit of Retributors to not eat that charge and just give him all of this movement to trap me in my deployment zone, which completely sucked, because that was my best answer for Dreadnoughts, was a bunch of multi-meltas with Morven's buff, and then just dealing 6 mortal wounds. So I lost 50% of my range firepower top of turn 1, and I also realized he can move 8 inches, and he's 8 inches away from this big line of sight blocker that has a ton of windows in it. So I'm sitting there bottom of turn 1, just like, I put myself in a real bad position. I lost 2 rhinos, like I said, the 2 range squads. Like, honestly, most of my Ardent Shroud detachment just off the table. So, fortunately, I was able to do just enough to tier his first Dreadnought, which move blocked his other Dreadnought, so none of them could touch the terrain. I just threw away a squad to nuke his Vanguard vets, one of which still lived. That was kind of relevant. He almost killed a character. He had Assassinate. That one dude like YOLO'd into my Repentance Superior, almost killed it. Whatever. But long story short, after that initial just brunt force attack, I was able to really play the table game. He was basically deployed in 1 quadrant, so I got the other 3. I drop a 9-inch charge from Deep Strike with my Zephyrim, kill him off of his home field objective in ruins, take it with my Zephyrim, and from that point I'm holding, I think, 4 or 5 objectives to his 1, so he has to play hyper aggressive to try to come back on primary, and Dreadnoughts only move so fast, and when you tier the frontmost Dreadnought and make them move around it, like, that's almost better than just killing a Dreadnought outright. So like, I'm taking a ton of shots, but limiting his movement, I kind of don't care if he tables me turn 5 because I own the table, and that's basically what happened. Like, I lived with 3 or 4 units left, but I scored I think at 94, so it was fine. But it was definitely that like wake up call of sisters are very, very delicate. They're fragile. You make a positioning error, you just accidentally lose 25% of your army, and that was a huge wake up call. I almost just got tabled by Deathwatch. That wasn't going to feel too good, but fortunately, I was able to come back from it. Took the game. Couple rolls went in my favor, like making a 9-inch charge when I only had like a 5 on a single miracle die, so I needed a 4 on the other dice, re-rolling stuff like that. It's not guaranteed, but I was comfortable enough. It worked out. That was a great game. Again, like I said, all my opponents all weekend were outstanding dudes. I had a ton of fun. And honestly, like, we're looking at this point, we've scored a ton of battle points. I just dropped a 94. Like, we're feeling really good. So I'm pretty happy with it. And from there, I think John's game finished up pretty quickly after mine. So John, do you want to give us a quick rundown?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that Will mentioned the Locust Heavy Destroyers. I played against Necrons this round. Had a nice, pleasant game. Again, went first with the Ultramarines, which was wonderful. So went first with the Ultramarines twice in one tournament. I've never gone first, 50% of the time in a tournament, but twice in one tournament felt really powerful. This time I just started off by thinning out a ton of warriors from a lot of different units. My opponent didn't have a Silent King, didn't have any Catan. I had a really big Lich Guard brick, a ton of Scarabs. Like, I think he had the full 27, or maybe he's 26, but he had a lot of...
It was 25. It was enough to score like 10 or 12 on Thin Their Ranks.
Yeah, well, I did that. No Prisoners, I think they call it No Prisoners.
Yeah,
now. A couple Warrior bricks, a bunch of Scarabs, a bunch of Lich Guard, a couple characters. And going first, I think I took one Warrior brick off the table, cut one down in size a little bit. I think I killed like 18 scarabs turn one. Really applied a ton of pressure with Invictors and kept them, tried to keep them, relatively far away from the Lich Guard brick. His turn one, the Lich Guard ended up making a charge. It was a decent length, but they made it into one Invictor and killed it, but they didn't get the second one. And then I just kind of rampaged forward, took out the Resorb Lord before he got to use it. I tried to bait him into using it on a Warrior brick. He was saving it for the Lich Guard, and he had the Lord near the Lich Guard brick, so that I couldn't shoot him, so that I would have to shoot the Lich Guard first. But the Invictor that lived, he tagged it in combat, but I used an Ultramarine strat to fall back and charge. So I spent 2 CP on that, and that guy went into the Overlord and punched him clean off the surface of the earth. It's one of those things where, he's 5 attacks, exploding 6s, 1 Master Artisan reroll, and I saved a CP reroll for the wound roll just to make sure it happened. But I went in with 5 attacks. I got 4 hits. One of them was a 6, so it was 5 hits, but I had 1 miss, so my Master Artisan's hit, and that turned into a 6, so suddenly it was 5 hits, which turned into 7 hits. And it was 7 hits. I did 6 wounds. He failed 2 invulns, and it's just like, whoa, that's 6 damage right there. Or no, he was the -1 damage guy. But he failed enough saves that he took enough damage that he died. And he tried to use a strat to stand him up on a 4-up, and it just didn't work. So the Reservoir was gone, and the second that happened, the Lich Guard ate that Invictor for breakfast, but then they were just in front of the army, and I'm like, well, you don't have a Reservoir anymore, so now it's actually worth my time to shoot you. So I just, ground the Lich Guard to paste, and finished him off in combat with the Captain. But unfortunately for my opponent, this was a case where I started applying range damage very, very quickly, and I removed his threats that could kill Dreadnoughts at range. The only thing that I really let him shoot me with was a unit of 3 of the Heavy Destroyers with the 3d3 damage gun. And unfortunately for him, they got in a firefight with the Contemptor, where the Contemptor actually just ignored them, and they shot the Contemptor 3 turns in a row, and they still didn't kill it. Where like every turn he would get 3 hits and 2 wounds, and I'd make 1 invuln. So the first time he did that, he rolled a 5 on damage on 3d3, so it went down to 4. So I had 5 wounds left, and I healed 3 wounds, so I was up to 8. Same thing, next turn he did 3 wounds, 3 hits, 2 wounds. I fail 1 save. I have 8 wounds left. He rolls an 8 on 3d3, and I was like, yeah, but a -1 damage, so it's 7 wounds. I have 1 wound left, and he couldn't get that other wound anywhere. So I healed up another 3 wounds, and at that point, they were the only unit left. So I actually just shot them with, 2 Plasma Redemptors and scooped them up. But the Necron shooting, unfortunately, was just not consistent. And my shooting was all weight of fire, whereas his was a couple high-quality things. And just one of those is very consistent, the other isn't, unfortunately, for Necron. So I think I got a clean 100 in that game, as I recall. So we had a very, very high-scoring round there, and Will had his game still. I'm sorry.
I did have my game, but I mean, by that point, you guys were both done, and I knew you had already won. So, but pressure was definitely off. As you guys left to go get me lunch, I did finish up, and my game was against the Dark Eldar Mirror. I kind of wanted it, but also kind of didn't, because the Cabal that the guy had was Poison Tongue, which lets all your poison weapons wound on a 3+, and I had 27 wounds of giant monsters. So I was a little leery of it, but as it turns out, when you have raiders that shoot Dark Lances but don't re-roll them, you miss more of your shots. And the end of the game, I want to say 4 raiders still left on the table, which is never good. If you have more than 2 raiders on the table by turn 2, you're in a good spot. I did learn that 9 Chronos, or like a unit of 1 Chronos, cannot survive Drazar fighting twice with Incubi right next to him, and a Triptych Whip Succubus swinging on them. They do turn into dust. I did lose all of my Chronos at the end of that game, but I do believe I scored a 90 on it. He didn't have anything left on the table by the time I was done. So we got another very high scoring game, ate lunch, and kind of assumed that we were playing against Matt Root's team. And, as it turned out, we did. Matt Root's team had just got done playing against the Pro Tabletop team, and they lost, and they got parroted to us. And Dan, tell us about your game.
All right, so the way the pairings went, it was either me or Will playing against Custodes, and the Custodes were like specifically geared to beat Dark Eldar. So I figured I'd take this matchup. knowing it's tough because a bunch of toughness 8 Telemon, when my anti-tank is strength 8, he's got the ability to turn off rerolls and the ability to make me -1 strength. Like, that just doesn't feel good. But this is one where, you know, my logic and my theory to play the game well is Miracle Dice in the 9th edition codex are a bonus you don't rely on. And that comes into play because the highest I ever rolled on this game was a single 4 on my Miracle Dice. Everything else was less. And it's a neat back and forth. I don't use my Repentia quite early enough. I don't get them into play. So they get hit with a Tanglefoot Grenade on a pretty pivotal turn, which basically sets me up. Turn 5, I have my 10-girl squad of Zephyrim have to make a 9-inch charge with a single 4 showing on my Miracle Dice. If I make the 9-inch charge, I get into his... He had 2 Sword and Board Custodes Guard on his home field objective. I had taken the mission secondary, which was you hold their home field objective, you score 4 points. Like, it's pretty clean. He had moved everything else forward because I had castled and I was going to just hold 2 objectives every single turn and score a 40 on my primary, get my secondaries. I've got a pretty good path to victory, but it's dependent on that one secondary because he's going to get his. That's just what Custodes do. So, long story short, turn 5, I got to make a 9-inch rerollable charge out of Deep Strike to kill 2 Sword and Board Custodes, and it's like a 16-point swing on primary and secondary. And sometimes you just don't make that, and I didn't. And so he wins that game. It was like 81-67, something like that. Like, it was my lowest scoring game of the whole weekend. Because, you know, sometimes you just don't make a 9-inch charge. And I don't like to rely on that at all. And by turn 5, normally you have a 5 or a 6 showing on Miracle Dice. I had a single 4. So, I mean, it hurt. It sucked. But our pairings had gone well. I was confident Lennon was going to win. And Will was in the Drukhari mirror match and had more Dark Technomancer Flamers. So, like, I felt good about that, but it's also in a mat route. So I was hoping to win, so it would kind of take the question out of it. But unfortunately, it was another close loss where, you know, if I was 1 or 2 mistakes different, I'd probably just win anyways. But lack of experience with the Codex. Sisters are very... again, very razor's edge. Like, one wrong mistake, which I made, and you lose Dominions, Retributors, and a Rhino that you didn't want to lose. Like, that just happened. Again, I learned a ton. Great game. My opponent was an awesome dude. Like, I would argue my 2 losses were against my 2 favorite opponents. Like, that's an easy statement to make. And when you can say that, you know it's a good event. So, with that, I want to jump to John again. Let's hear about your game, and we'll wrap up with Will.
Yeah, absolutely. So I ended up playing against some Dark Angels here. So yet another Space Marine mirror match for me. This was Battle Lines, and this was one of our. I didn't really mind going second because my opponent chose me. Our pairing strategy for this one was we put Will down so that we could choose Will's matchup. Because we really didn't want Will into the Custodes, because on Battle Lines, it's awkward because there's not many objectives in your own deployment zone, so it turns into a center grind. And then Will's army was not very good at killing 3 Telemon. And we also knew that this Custodes player, Jeremy, had during the Pro Tabletop round, he had gotten the team's win because he had put an absolute beatdown on Brad Weir, the Pro Tabletop Drukhari player. So we know that he had just beaten a good Drukhari player soundly, and then we looked at the mission. We're like, we don't really want this. So kind of our pairing strategy was try to avoid that matchup, get Dan into a winnable game against either the Dark Angels or the Custodes, and then see if I can go take home mine. So I ended up getting the Dark Angels because the Dark Angel player singled me out and chose me. And then he picked a very heavy table, but a very heavy table means I don't mind going second because the army can alpha strike, but Ultramarines do not need to alpha strike to win games. And that's exactly what happened. I went second, and I was able to hide most of my army. He brought 1 attack bike squad out and shot a Dreadnought, but he did not kill it. He just wounded it. He wounded it very severely. He got it down to like 2 wounds left, but that doesn't matter, right? 2 wounds left is, let's just give it +1 to hit, heal at 3 wounds, because it was a contemptor. So it ended up, it doesn't degrade. So I just healed that one and then put that one at the most conservative angle, and blew away. I blew away 5 bites and 3 attack bites turn 1, and was just kind of like, okay, well, back to you. You get a 5 primary, back to you. And I moved out onto both center objectives with a Lamp Speeder Storm on each, and he kind of had to try to kill both Land Speeders off to give me a 5 on primary back. And unfortunately for him, he did not quite do so. He had an attack bike squad and a Terminator squad try to charge onto the 2 objectives. The Terminators actually made their 9-inch charge to do it, but he used a CP reroll, and then the attack bikes had like a 5 or 6-inch charge into the other Storm Speeder, but they failed, and he just didn't have a CP reroll, so I just kind of got a 10 on primary. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So of course I rinse and repeat. I wipe out the attack bike squad, so I've killed all 6 Vismelt attack bikes, by the end of my turn 2. I wipe out the 5-man Terminator squad that had taken that objective from me, and again I put a unit on each of the center 2 objectives, and I got my Oath of Moment again. And I was like, all right, again, I gave you a 5 on primary. You need to do something to stop me from scoring a 10 or 15. And again, he kind of stuck his army out in the breeze, and again, it stuck out in front of the Dreadnoughts. And Dark Angels are very durable, especially those Terminators. But the one unit that had a bunch of Storm Shields on it, I kept splitting up my fire between the Volkite Dreadnoughts and the and everything else, where I would shoot a whole, I would just start shooting heavy bolters and random assault intercessors with AP1 guns, so that he would take saves on a Storm Shield, and then I would put a Volcon Dread in, and the mortal wounds would kill the Storm Shield guy. And then by the end of it, he only had Lightning Claw guys left, and then I'm like, all right, well, now that the Storm Shields are all gone, I'm going to shoot the plasma cannons overcharged from the Redemptors at you. And that was just every failed 5-up invuln is a dead Terminator. So just a couple need to go through there, and that's all that happened. So I scooped them up off those objectives again, and this kind of repeated until on my turn 3, I killed 10 Terminators and a Talon Master and a Command Squad. I just shot the Command Squad out, then I shot the Talon Master out from behind it. I think I wounded it, finished it with an Invictor in combat, and he ended up just getting a 5 on primary every turn. I held the center and maxed my secondaries. I did take Retrieve Octarius Data just because Battle Lines is a really hard one to take banners on, and I wasn't confident in that. So I decided I would rather take Octarius Data, even though it limited my score. But I got a 97 there, so Octarius Data was a 12, everything else was max. And that closed me out at 491 points out of 5 games, which turned out to be very important. But then that meant that we were 1-1 because Dan and I's games finished first. But Will was playing into Matt Root in a Drukari mirror match on our last game.
That's right. And the big differences between my list and his list is that he had 6 Chronos instead of 3. And all of his Raiders were Dark Technomancer, which is kind of a weird pick, just because you can't reroll their lance shots, and if you roll a 1, they take D3 mortal wounds. So, and he also had 10 Hellions and 5 extra Incubi. It was a really weird. On paper, it's a really weird list, but I got to learn firsthand how good it actually is. As stated, this was Hammer and Anvil with only 4 objectives, and my goal was to sit on 3 of them the entire game. And unfortunately, I went first. I would have rather had gone second just so that I could start picking him apart as he moved onto objectives, but sometimes you roll hot. I was able to remove 2 of the 4 Chronos and put 1 on 2 wounds left at the beginning of the turn and score high on my secondary at that moment because I took Stranglehold. He retaliated by destroying a Raider, killing my Trueborn, unfortunately, and throwing all of his Hellions into 6 of my Chronos. They did nothing, and I killed a good portion on the swing back. My turn, I let 1 Chronos unit leave combat and then paid to let it shoot afterwards. And I made a big play mistake the turn before and not consolidated my Chronos around to have them on the other side of a wall because he charged them and had all of his Hellions on one side of the wall. And for whatever reason, I thought that I could still shoot at them when they're in close combat, but I couldn't see them, so I couldn't shoot. And so that kind of sucked. But I held the center, and I was ready to receive his charge. His turn 2, he sent all of his Incubi, Drazar, and the Triptych Whip Succubus with competitive edge into 6 of my Chronos, removing all 6 of them in one turn. And that was probably the death knell. I wasn't able to continue to move OBSEC units onto my right flank objective, and so he started holding that, and so I started losing ground on Stranglehold, and then his Chronos unit was untouched basically, and he used that to kind of mop me up, and it kind of just broke on turn 2. I needed to have at least a couple of these things left on the table, and I just was not able to hold out even 2 fully buffed Chronos units with the Power from Pain strategy. I can't remember what it's called, but basically if they kill a unit, you can put them on turn 5 for Power from Pain. I had 2 units on that, and even that wasn't enough to withstand the raw efficiency of competitive edge Triptych Whip Succubus. So I ended up losing that one. I want to say he got either 90 or 100, and I got 46, I want to say. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. But Matt was a pleasant opponent. He was very jovial. We had a great game, and it just kind of broke his way. And with my loss and Dan's loss, we ended up losing that round and going to 6th place. But, Lennon, would you like to do the honors?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it was a nice run. The 2 teams that we lost to, Matt Root's team, whose name I frankly can't remember, and Pro Tabletop, they ended up finishing 1st and 2nd. So no shame in that. Both 2 very good teams, and I was happy that we there were a lot of close games in those rounds, even if neither of them quite fell our way. But that was enough for me to get a War Master, actually, which was the award for most individual points, which is kind of weird because I always like getting individual awards. Certainly no one complains about it, but at a team event, it always feels a little bit different because I would obviously rather have the team winning 1st place, but it was a nice little consolation prize though, so I certainly didn't complain about it.
And real fast too, kind of directly related to how you got that was Will versus Jaime, right?
Yes, absolutely. We should mention that. So I had 491 points final after 5 rounds, which again was enough for War Master. The runner-up was Jaime Paris from Pro Tabletop, who had 489. And he had 3 100-point games, he had a 99-point game, and then Will held him to a 90. So that alone, that holding him to a 90, capped him at 490 max. And I was able to stick at 491. So that right there, Will playing that game and keeping Jaime down a little bit, that let me get a War Master. So even though War Master is traditionally an individual award, definitely was some help from the team on that front, which I really appreciate.
Hell yeah, man. And I believe, even though we got 6th place and lost 2 of our games, we did have the most points overall of any of the other teams, right? Even with our 2 losses.
I think we had the most battle points, actually. We scored pretty well, even in even in the rounds we lost. And then our wins were very, very high scoring. I'm pulling it up to double check. So I'm like 90% sure on that, but I'm not 100. But I'm fairly confident that we had the most overall points. They gave a bonus for winning the round of, I think, they gave a bonus of 100 points for every round win. So ignoring that purely on the basis of how many battle points were scored, we did score the most points.
Yeah, it was honestly, Will's 2 losses were really tough matchups that just broke one way or the other, and I think his lowest score was still a 56.
Yeah.
And then my 2 losses, one was a 77 and the other was a 68 or something. Sisters get theirs, which is something I found out. So we just scored so many points, and that's why we played top table. We played against all the best teams. We just stayed up there. We were 3-2, but we had like everyone said, the most points in the game, but we had 100 plus more points than some of the 4-1s. Our team grinded out some points. It was, again, a die roll here, a misplay there, away from 4-1, 5-0. Super fun weekend, and it also kind of reminded me and ignited that passion of playing more, practicing more, going to more events, so that way when a game comes down to who makes the mistake, like honestly, that's a big thing when you get to like a certain level, and it's all about who makes the small mistake, because you get to a point no one's making big mistakes, but just that small like placement error, forgetting to consolidate a unit, things like that can completely change the course of the game. And that's what it reminded me. Like, I can take a high powered list, I can just go table some people, but if I don't remember the little things, I'm not going to get the results I want. And that's a huge takeaway for anyone listening to this, or anyone who likes to play events competitively. Focus on the small things. Worry about the flashy plays later. Flashy plays don't matter if you forget to disembark 5 battle sisters, or you forget to consolidate a unit onto an objective. Stuff like that determines the win, not do I make this long bomb charge on turn 2 to blow up X. Like, that can happen, that's great, you might take over the game, but what's your plan when it doesn't? And that's what you got to really consider, and make all those small decisions so the big plays don't matter nearly as much.
That's right. So looking forward, because I know that you have the fire reignited in you, I have a painted 9th edition army, and Lennon literally has a GT every single weekend because he's a fiend. What are we all looking forward to in the upcoming months?
Well, real quick, actually, before
Yes.
we hop into that,
Sure.
I believe that Tim, who has been patiently waiting for us this entire time, I think Tim did get some games in with the new Sisters Codex. I know he's been grinding to practice a lot.
I've just been sitting over here listening, like honestly living vicariously through you guys while painting up my dominions. But yeah, I've been deep diving into the new Sisters book, trying out lists that I like, but also trying out lists that maybe I like a little bit less, just because I want to make sure there's no stone unturned, and I want to see what sounds good and isn't, and what doesn't sound good but is. And so a lot of us have kind of gravitated towards Argent Shroud plus Bloody Rose list, which makes sense. Bloody Rose is still the best melee detachment, and Argent Shroud gives you a lot of shooting power and threat range. So it seems like an obvious place to start. Morven is really good, so she goes in there, like, yeah, I'm sure you could optimize, you could make lists that don't have her, but she's so obviously good that it seems like a good place to start, and then we figure out what the lists that don't need her look like. Celestine, been trying her out, she's good and everything. And we're actually, the Miami guys, the South Florida guys, are actually doing a test day tomorrow where we're just all running into each other. It started out as I was taking the day off work just to get in the league that I'm in. And then a couple other guys kind of jumped on that since I was taking the day off anyhow. They're like, hey, let's dojo into each other, get some reps. And then some more people jumped in. And then next thing you know, we had like 8 of us doing all these practice games. And then someone was just like, hey, why don't we just put in a token, make it RTT? So we just kind of have an ad hoc random YOLO RTT. It's happening tomorrow on a Monday. I guess that's a thing, like Monday RTTs. And I actually called out Ruben round 1, which normally sounds like a bad idea to call out Ruben if you're trying to win, but I'm not trying to win. It's just practice day that just turns out to be an RTT. But I'm actually testing out the list that I'm potentially going to be bringing to Charity Hammer about a month from now. But my biggest concern is I feel like it plays well into AdMech, and I feel like it plays well into the field. I'm just concerned that it doesn't demech or rip Dark Eldar out of their transports fast enough. And I'm worried that, what I want to test is, does it score well enough, and does it shoot decently enough, and does it punch hard enough, and does it exist hard enough where maybe that doesn't matter? Because it's 95 bodies and 4 rhinos, and it does so many mortal wounds. And there is just MSU running around everywhere. It's like 26 drops. So it's definitely a departure from what I'm normally running, but I don't see anyone running something like this, and it's a concept I have, and I want to see if it's good. So I guess we're going to find out tomorrow. And that's pretty much it for me. Just the practice days. I might be able to escape and do an RTT or 2 before Charity Hammer, but I don't really have anything except for practice and Charity Hammer coming up. What about you guys?
Yeah, real fast, I want to jump into something you said, and then I'll talk about what I got coming up. But the kind of conversation of things that look really good but necessarily aren't, and then vice versa. The entire weekend, like I was thinking the Dogmata was just going to be like MVP, doing all this work, giving me all this buffs and everything. It was kind of unnecessary, and like that's one of the things about just playtesting and really fine tuning the last 10% of a list is, you know, Dogmata is not a lot of points. It's an elite slot, which your Vanguard or Battalion, you're fine there since Zephyr moved. But it was just one of those things I realized, like, that could have been a Eunice Sacrosanct. I could have upgraded to get Celestine. Like, it was just... I was reminded how just because something looks good on paper, playing it really matters a lot. Because just circumstances, like... Morven shooting was way better than I expected. Dogmata, Chaplain chance, not nearly as good as I expected. So, again, it's just those little things like that, and I would love to do yet another Sisters Deep Dive. We're going to do a million of those. Me, Tim, and Lennon are all planning on playing them quite a bit for the next 6 months. So we'll do a ton of that conversation. But that's just something I having been out of the tournament loop because of COVID and all that for like 18 months, I forgot how important those small 10% changes to a list are. But with that said, I am planning. We got the GW event coming up. We've got the New Orleans FLG event in like December, Crucible in October. Like I've got a ton of GTs just like on the horizon, but nothing immediate. So my goals are fine-tuning the Sisters list, but also getting practice with other stuff. So we've talked about it before. When you're a 4-1 player trying to play a 5-0 army, it's a lot easier to go 3-2, and that's kind of what I felt like happened to me at the team tournament. So I need to get myself back to that 4-1 level before I start really pushing a 5-0 list, because I've made some stupid mistakes. I've unforced errors, non-combat errors, things like that I haven't been getting the results I want. So my focus for the next month is getting back into proper form so I don't make those stupid mistakes, so that way I can play a high skill army like Sisters and get the results I want instead of getting subpar results, I guess. And I hold myself to a very high standard, and I get in my own head a little bit, and that just compounds the issue. So I really need to get through that and get to a level where I'm comfortable fighting in a Drukhari and I'm comfortable fighting in Admech, and I know, if I draw Lennon, there's a chance, like a god can bleed, and I need to exploit that. So that's my goal for the short term anyways.
Nice. Maybe I should pick up a Sisters army so that I can have Sisters conversations on the Sisters podcast.
I
mean, if you want, I got some extra. I'll hook you up.
Oh, you know what? Another thing that was, I'll jump in there. I'll just dump, and then we can elaborate on. I actually have to give credit to Colin from Colin Sherman from Best in Fashion podcast. They've been, the past couple episodes, they've been doing this thing called Better Human, Better 40K, which is pretty much a lot of like kind of like self-awareness and learning about yourself, but then like, generally just how it makes you happier, but also it translates into being a better 40K player. And I don't care if it was because of me or not. I'm totally going to take credit, because I remember it was like several weeks ago, John was on their show and I just was on break at work, and so I just kind of asked the question. They were talking about playstyle or something, and I asked, how do you go about identifying your own playstyle? Everyone talks about like, oh, this army aligns my playstyle, this army aligns my playstyle. Everyone likes to say that because I think everyone has a way that they like to think of themselves or like to think of their playstyle, but you can't really trust like self-diagnosis that way. And I could really see the gears turning on the host and John, like when they were asking that. And then I noticed after that, there was a lot of talk in the BitPod Discord about learning more about yourself and like talking to other people and how they view you and stuff like that. And it just kind of, maybe it was a coincidence, but I kind of don't think it was. But they gave me the idea to just ask, the people you play with, what your strengths and weaknesses are, as both a player on the table, but also how you receive feedback and stuff like that. And so I haven't gotten around to asking like everyone that I play with, but I did ask a few. And Ruben actually probably gave me, I think, like my favorite response. So shout out to Ruben Fernandez, who's a great player, but he also gave me really, really, really good feedback. And he basically said, I asked him, I was like, "What's my play style? What are my strengths and weaknesses? You know, and stuff like that." And he said, like, play style, he definitely felt I was very much like a KG slash defensive type player. And he said, like, my biggest strength by far, and I definitely would attribute this to playing Sisters, is I just have a great sense of trades. My head math is really on point, and he says it's super rare that I commit to kill something and I don't kill it. And he says, and then, just really kind of fluffing up my head, that I'm a very competent list writer, because I usually write my own list. It's very rare that I net list. If I do, it's usually just to deconstruct the list, see how it works, but I'll usually just take one or two things that I like from the list and then incorporate it into my own. Because I'd rather just, when you net list, you're starting at step 15 and you're kind of missing steps 1 through 14. So I would much rather just design something from the ground up with the tools I want. But sometimes I will take a list that is a proven concept, but I very quickly will just rewrite it and make it my own. But he said the weakness, and this is the part that I was kind of, I don't want to say cringing, but this is kind of the part I was bracing myself, because like we don't ever want to hear what our weaknesses are, right? Like it doesn't, it's uncomfortable. It's like rejection. But this was the part that I was really after. And he said the biggest weakness that he's seen from playing me is my tempo. And he says pretty much of all the games we played, and we played a bunch, he said I've usually hung back one turn too many, the majority of them. So that's kind of the thing that like I kind of really took away from it was, okay, well, now I know my play style. And so now I know where my comfort zone is. And now I know where I can, play lists and get better at my play style, or I can play lists to learn how to get outside my comfort zone and improve, both of which have value. But also now I can really know if I have that voice in my head that says, hey, this needs to be your go turn, like to just go for it, especially in a practice game. And you know what? If that ends up being a turn too early, we can talk about it with the opponent, stuff like that. But it is really giving me like something where I can kind of zone in and hone in on, especially this year, next year, where I try to break out and try to take it to the next level. So I was very excited about that, and that was. It seems like it was such a minor thing, but I that was a really big breakthrough for me personally on trying to figure out like where to go from here for as far as like practice games and list writing and stuff like that.
Right on. This is self-reflection. Everybody who's listening to this, go ask your opponents, what they think about you, and then learn from it.
And that was one of the things actually. Both my losses, I was able to have those conversations with my opponent. Like, I felt like almost immediately it improved my play style after my second round loss, and then just a lot of self-reflection after my round 5 loss. Like that is one of the most valuable things you can do, especially at a competitive event. And again, especially if you're doing well, like Will losing to Lennon top table, like, hey, what could I have done differently? Like that honestly can be more important than everything else the entire weekend. Like that is one of the best practices to get into. And when I had my good run last 2019, I was having those conversations every single game, after wins, after losses. Hey, what were you concerned about? What did you think I was going to do? Like you might think a strategy is obvious and your opponent might have never seen it coming, and vice versa. You might have thought you had something so clever planned and they just knew that was the idea. So that, again, just to iterate it, is one of the most important things you can do at a competitive event.
I think my favorite thing to ask someone is after a game, especially like if you lost it, be like, hey, what were you afraid of me doing? Or what did you think I was going to do that you were really afraid of that I ended up not doing? And that will usually kind of tell you like what the path to victory should have been.
Yeah, if they celebrate a decision you made, it was the wrong freaking decision.
It's true.
But do we want to get some last thoughts? We've been going for a little over an hour, and it's almost midnight on 4th of July, so I am ready to wrap this thing up. But any last thoughts you guys might have?
Yeah, real quick, events that I'm looking forward to: Bolt City Slot Fight in St. Augustine in July. It's going to be a good time. Also the GW event, Crucible, all that good stuff. Yeah, I'm tired. John, what about you?
Events I'm looking forward to. I'm going to be at the Lone Star Open in the end of July in Texas. And then I'm going to Charity Hammer and bouncing from that right into the old GW event in Orlando. So really excited about that. I probably won't be able to make the Bolt City GT just to give myself a little bit of a break because that'll be between Lone Star and GW. That'll be a 4-weekend stretch where I have 3 not majors, but 2 majors and a charity event where I'm probably going to be playing for 3 days straight anyway. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's going to feel like 3 different, 9-round majors. So I'm gonna probably miss the GT just to, do something else, maybe spend some time with, friends and their girlfriend. But other than that, I'm really excited about those upcoming events. So it's gonna be a good time.
Give me a chance to win one.
Go get him, buddy.
Oh, you know it. Yeah.
Dan, did you have you're conspicuously quiet on this one, Dan. Did you have anything that you were excited about?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, the hobby. I made a terrible financial decision, picked up some Space Marines so I can play the Ultra Memes list or the Dark Angel 80-point list. So, like, I'm looking forward to just getting practice games in and playing in general. I think my next set in stone event is probably the Games Workshop Orlando, but I do definitely want to get up to the Jacksonville event, July 17th. They're sold out right now, so I have to get approval from the wife and get on the wait list and get a ticket. So I'm not like very optimistic about that, but I think I have the sisters list I want to play if that happens. So like I'm hopeful it can work out just because like you've said it a million times before, Tim, I want to get 1% better with that army. And all I did was really find a way to add Celestine to my team tournament list. But that might just be a massive change that lets me 4-1, maybe get a top table appearance. So like I'm just excited again about the game, about the Sisters Codex, and the opportunity to compete post-COVID.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a good place to be. And I think that's kind of the general consensus right now as a community is that even though the rules have been, it feels a little bit bloated, but right now events are opening up. The books are starting to come out at a rapid pace, and just the overall theme it just tends to be optimism. And I think will probably be a good place to stop it on that optimistic note. I was really glad I was able to talk to you guys again. Feels like it's been a while since we recorded. Joe and I just recorded about 2 weeks ago the episode of the Sisters Deep Dive with Sister Act. That will be coming up part 2 of that probably in about a week or 2 weeks. We're going to give you the long-awaited part 2 of that deep dive. And then after that, we're actually going to have our very own Reggie Sanchez from the Miami crew will be on the next episode to help us deep dive and deconstruct AdMech, how to play them and how to play against them. If you have not felt the cogitated fury of a Solar Flare Lucius brick, well, boy, do we have a treat for you. But we will talk about that. And that is pretty much it. It was good to talk to you guys, and we will see you all next time. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.